Welcome to The Blast Zone, the podcast where we dig up the bombs that shook Hollywood and try to find out why they went up in flames. This week, America? Fuck. Yeah, this is Team America, World Police. Welcome to The Blast Zone.
Welcome to The Blast Zone.
We are not a podcast about bad movies. We are a podcast about movies that did badly.
That's right.
I'm Jon Drake, in-house film critic of my Letterboxd account.
And I'm Ian Dukes. I'm a person with thoughts and feelings, and some of them are about movies.
Movies like Team America, World Police, which we'll be talking about. But before we get into that, Ian, how are you doing this week?
I feel a little stronger, a little more steady on my feet these days because I've been walking. Over the last couple of months, I've been slowly ramping up my daily step count. As of this week, I'm going to hit a big milestone to get my daily average to over 10,000 steps a day.
Nice.
That's 10,000 every day this week, which is actually a lot of steps if you haven't tried it lately. It's not like the basic maintenance level walking that they seem to say it is. It takes 5 miles to get 10,000 steps, sometimes 4.5. So that's like 90 minutes of walking, 2 hours, depending on how fast you're going. And that's probably more of a commitment than I'm going to realistically be able to sustain in the long term. But for now, I'm into it. I feel good. I feel like I might actually be getting myself into better shape.
Nice. Yeah. 10,000 steps. There's like a dichotomy when it comes to the step counts because there are some times where it can feel like an insurmountable amount. And there are other times if you're just really active around the house, like cleaning the house one day, you might look down and suddenly you've got 8,000 steps before you notice.
They do sneak up on you when you least expect it.
But like office workers or God forbid remote workers, like we kind of are, makes it extra tough.
Yes.
At least in Los Angeles, you can get outside year round to go for a walk if you want to. There's a good 4 months out of the year where it's not really an option for me, but I've added in cardio to my gym time to make sure I'm getting a decent amount of steps.
That's good.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference in not just your physical health, but your mental health and well-being as well, which we could all use a little boost in that department these days.
Absolutely. I've got to boost myself as much as I can.
Glad to hear it. You're being healthy.
Thank you. How you been doing?
I've been good. I was in Chicago last weekend with my wife, Jamie.
Oh, wow.
We jetted off to beautiful Chicago. Late February is when they say you want to visit the Windy City.
Oh, for sure.
No, she had to go for work. So she's working there this week, but I tagged along for the weekend and left on Monday.
Oh, nice.
We had a great time to celebrate our anniversary, our 10-year wedding anniversary. We went to the Girl and the Goat, which is a very venerated restaurant. And for any old Talk Chef listeners, that is a Top Chef winners restaurant, Stephanie Izard from season 2. So
very cool.
Me and my wife, obviously big Top Chef fans. So whenever we're visiting a city, we try to find out if there's any Top Chef restaurants there. And that was one of the best I've ever been to.
Oh, awesome. And happy anniversary to you both.
Thank you.
That sounds like a great way to celebrate.
Yeah, it was a good time. I went to the Bean. I tried to communicate with the alien that I'm pretty sure lives in there, but he wasn't feeling social, so he stayed inside.
Oh, well.
What can you do? You can't win them all. But we actually had better weather in Chicago than we did back home in New England. So
oh, man.
It was not pleasant coming home, but we got some days in the high 60s, low 70s next week. So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice.
It is nice. There's still fucking ice and snow on my roof. Not like a bad amount, not an ice dam amount, but I'm
okay.
Like, can't wait for it to just be gone. I don't want to see fucking snow anymore.
I know. Let's clear the rooftops.
Clear the rooftops, finally. Speaking of, I got nothing for that segue, but did you happen to watch anything this week you wanted to share with the listeners?
I did. It's going to involve a little story. A few months back on our Keanu app, back in September, I had a week where I watched very little visual media, but I listened to a whole lot of audiobook media. And so that week I made a rare exception and I brought a book for show and tell. That book was Susanna Clarke's 2004 novel, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And this week I had a similar pattern, not much watching, a lot of listening, partly because I'm doing so much walking. But instead of bringing a book this time, I'm bringing the one TV show that I did sample recently. And in a wild coincidence, that show is the 2015 BBC adaptation of Susanna Clarke's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Things are coming full circle. Now, here's the thing. I like the show. It's pretty well done. It's pretty faithful to the story and to the style of the book. The only actor that's in it that I really recognize is Eddie Marsan, who plays Mr. Norrell. He's great. He's a character actor, face that you definitely know from a million movies for anyone who doesn't recognize that name.
He was in Elf too, right? Mr. Narwhal. He's the guy who's like, bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad. It's a play on word, Mr. Narwhal.
Yes, the claymation creature.
Actually, the same people that created those claymation creatures created the puppets in Team America.
Oh, wow.
Full circle.
We're connecting everything this week.
Yeah, we are.
Anyway, overall, I'm not actually sure whether I'm recommending this show for everyone. It's entertaining to me. It's an easy watch because I already know the story and it's just fun to see it brought to life on the screen. But it's like a big, complicated, long story. It's spread over a long time frame. It's got a ton of characters. And I'm honestly not sure how it plays to somebody who hasn't read the book. So this is like a conditional recommend. If you read it, if you want a fun reminder of the book that you liked, then go for it. If not, I would recommend taking on the book first, which is long, but it's an absolute gem of a book and it's super rewarding.
So more of a companion piece, really. Probably.
Exactly.
Yeah, I haven't read the book. I've never even heard of the show, except for when you told me about the book. But I am trying to read more again. So if I ever find myself with a gap in my reading materials, I might take you up on that offer.
Yeah, this is one that will definitely stay in my long-term good books I loved that I would tell friends about list.
Nice. I mean, the odds of that happening are very slim because even though I have not been reading, I still buy books like I read all the time, which is a problem. So I have a bit of a backlog to catch up on. But
I'm sure, but that's a nice feeling when you start to actually read those things you picked out for yourself a while back.
It's like a surprise. Like your house is your very own bookstore.
Yeah.
You don't even remember what you have. So I did not bring a TV show that was adapted from a book that I love. I just watched a movie. I watched Dead Man's Wire, which is a new drama / thriller, real paranoid 70s thriller type of movie directed by Gus Van Sant, which I didn't even realize when I was getting hyped up to see the movie. Gus Van Sant, for listeners who are maybe a little younger, was a big time filmmaker in the 90s and early 2000s, but has faded from general consciousness to some extent. But he directed stuff like Good Will Hunting, Psycho, the Psycho remake, the shot for shot Psycho remake, even Cowgirls Get the Blues. Like he's got a wide range of genres that he's worked in, but I think people my age mostly know him from stuff like Elephant, which was a loose retelling of the Columbine school shooting, and then Last Days, which was a loosely fictionalized telling of the final days of Kurt Cobain. His movies were ponderous, like I said, divisive, but this is a very straightforward Dog Day Afternoon style thriller starring Bill Skarsgård, and it is really good. It's based on a true story. Apparently, I did not know that going into it. It did not affect my enjoyment of the movie at all because it's not telling a sensational story. It's telling a story that's believable, even if you don't know that it actually happened.
Okay.
Bill Skarsgård plays a just local guy in Indianapolis, down on his luck dude, but he's got a property that he owns and he can't make the mortgage payments on. He suspects foul play from the mortgage company because they want the property because they think it's gone up in value. So he basically kidnaps the son of the owner of this mortgage company, takes him hostage to get what he wants, which is ever shifting and vague. Colman Domingo has a big role in it as a radio host who becomes his touch point when he wants to talk to the cops. He calls Colman Domingo and he kind of mediates between them. Dacre Montgomery, who I only really knew from Stranger Things, does the old ugly himself up for the role routine and plays the son who's taken hostage. Okay. Bill Skarsgård just brings such like a live wire weirdo energy to this role that could have been kind of standard. And I guess when you find out how it all ends up, you do want somebody who can play a little wild and a little unhinged, but he's rapidly becoming the most interesting Skarsgård to me.
Yeah, which takes a lot.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them that I'm fond of. Alexander was great in Pillion, just came out, and his dad Stellan, of course. We loved him in Andor and also many films that he's been the star of over the years.
And he may take home Best Supporting Actor this year. He's definitely got a shot.
Yeah, for sentimental value. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Neither did I. I should. That feels like a Vegetables movie, though.
It's in my Vegetables list for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I really recommend this movie. It's a lot of fun despite the kind of serious subject matter. The movie itself doesn't take itself too seriously. Cool. And it's, let me just see. Yeah, 105 minutes, which doesn't sound super short, but in today's movie-going world, anything under 2 hours is a big win for people with tight schedules.
Absolutely.
So yeah, check out Dead Man's Wire, especially like when we talk about they don't make movies like this anymore. Like this is the movie they don't make anymore. And they made it. And I tried to see it in theaters and it wasn't fucking playing anywhere near me. So I had to wait.
Well,
but
you tried.
Maybe we could talk about it in more detail someday if you get my drift, because we might have to. All right. Team America, Ian. Are you ready to tackle this one? This is going to be a tricky one.
Fuck yeah, I guess.
Those two statements are incongruous with each other. What was your familiarity with Team America? Did you watch it when it first came out, catch it in the theater, build the website for it, work on the soundtrack? What's your history with this movie?
I don't think I got to work on anything for it, but I was into this movie when it came out. Pretty sure I saw it in the theaters. I'd been a bit of a South Park fan on and off, and I just remember loving this movie. I thought it was so funny. I thought the songs were so great. Now, keep in mind, I was not as politically conscious or socially evolved back then as I am today, which which is maybe inexcusable because I was not a child at that time. I was in my 30s already. But, I've always been a late bloomer. But even so, I was a little uncomfortable then with some of the movie's style and humor. And as we'll certainly get into, it can still make me laugh, but I'm even more uncomfortable now.
I was a child, and even I had some hangups. I would say I was a moderate South Park fan at this time, but I was a big fan of Trey Parker and Matt Stone because I was a big basketball fan.
Wow.
Which was one of their earlier films.
Deep cut.
Interestingly enough, not a movie that they wrote and directed, which I always assumed that they were the guys that only wanted to write and direct their own stuff and didn't want to do somebody else's material.
Yeah, me too.
But this was a David Zucker movie of
Okay.
airplane fame of the Zucker brothers. I still love basketball. And I think maybe part of it is because they're obviously gifted actors, not gifted. They're good at a certain type of acting and a certain type of humor, but also having somebody with a different sensibility might rein in some of their more destructive impulses.
Right.
Which when I saw Team America, don't get me wrong, I laughed heartily. And I laughed at some of the parts that I found myself not quite laughing at this time around. But I still felt like, is this right? Is this who we should be taking the piss from in this day and age? And so much of what the movie wants you to make fun of and mock and laugh at has only become more obvious in the years since, that like these celebrities that are being skewered in this movie are by and large on the right side of history.
Yes.
So it is kind of a tough watch in that sense. And you could say you're overthinking it. It's just a dumb comedy, but they fucking put it in the movie. So we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. So much of what we're forced to do when talking about this movie is like psychoanalyzing Trey and Matt and Pam Brady because we can't exonerate her.
Do you know what movie we've already covered that Pam Brady wrote?
No, I forgot.
Hot Rod.
Oh, see, that goes a long way towards exonerating her as a writer and a funny person, but she's a full partner in the authorship of this movie. And it's got a lot of funny things to it. And it's got a lot of politics expressed and just worldview stuff. It's not just politics, it's attitude towards being a person that just does not hold up when you look closely at it.
Yeah. Once again, to my chagrin, I have to shout out our third chair, Ron.
Yes.
Because I think we're going to want to use this phrase that he coined quite a lot throughout the episode, which is 8th grade libertarianism.
Yeah.
Seems to be running through the veins of Parker and Stone. To some degree, it still is today, but they've obviously changed their politics as they've gotten into past their middle age, into their 50s and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, despite the fact I'm still clinging to the idea that could be middle-aged, I'm with you on that. They were too old to not be grown up. John is shaking his head at me.
I think I'm past middle-aged.
Well,
I think I passed middle-aged like 10 years ago, but that's a lifestyle problem.
Yes. There's two competing forces. If we're going to discuss middle age, modern medical science has allowed middle age to stretch much later into life. And then geopolitical circumstances have shortened the life expectancy of everyone on the planet back down. So now middle age is like 12.
Also, like beer has gotten so good. There's so much beer around, but that's not great for life expectancy purposes.
No, it's working the downside of that equation. But talking about age, these are guys who refuse to grow up. They're stuck in that 8th grade libertarianism mentality. They want to stay in that juvenile mindset where it's like anything outside of me deserves to be ridiculed if it annoys me or it challenges me in any way, which is, as I was thinking of those words, like that describes Cartman, right? That's who that character is like a person who wants to be self-centered, who revels in it, who's easily annoyed, willing to mock everybody no matter how weak or marginalized their position might be in relationship to him. And they clung to that, right? So it's not just wanting to do that, but then wanting to cling to it, keep that character alive. They'll sometimes acknowledge that Cartman is the villain or can be the villain and deserves to have his worst excesses punished, but they also treasure him for being that unrestrained id that gets to lash out and let their worst thoughts and impulses come out. So they don't want him to change. And so you have to sort of judge them for wanting to keep that character alive. And that character is the personality that informs a lot of this movie.
I think the idea that like we make fun of everybody is all well and good, but like you need a valid reason to make fun of somebody or else it just feels like bullying.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of this movie feels like, is that they decided they didn't like these people for whatever reason and then reverse engineered things to mock them for. And I find a lot of the characterization of the actors in this movie lazy. Not just like they're poorly written, but also they don't feel like they're actually mocking the people that they are.
Yeah.
Like they just took an idea of a character in their head and stuck Sean Penn's puppet face on him and then voiced it. But like that doesn't sound like Sean. That's not how Sean Penn talks. Not just it's not what his voice sounds like. That's not like the words he uses. That's not how he presents himself.
Yeah, a couple of the actors they're represented have little elements that do reflect some real world specifics that they might have been known to talk about.
Not as many as you'd hope.
Yeah, exactly. It's so broad. It feels cheap, right?
Yeah.
When you don't use a specific thing, when you're just like, oh, and that person too, I saw them on TV and let me just take a shot at them. I don't know. We'll go through a few of the specific people when we get into the movie, I think, where we want to take apart what they actually tried to go after them for.
And let me be clear, like, you should make fun of Sean Penn.
Right.
Like, the guy seems like a crazy asshole, but be smart about it or be clever about it, I guess is a better way to put it.
And that's the thing is like this style of comedy, I see it as reveling in not needing to be clever because they're capable. They can be fantastically smart and insightful writers at times. So like they did with Matt Damon is the biggest example. Matt Damon says nothing but grunts out his own name. And it's catchy in the like schoolyard bully mocking kind of way. But that to me is telling you that specifically they don't give a shit what he has to say. They just decided to mock him because they don't like him. They decided to pick on him.
Like the guy co-wrote Good Will Hunting just a few years before this. He's not an idiot. Right? Like we talk a lot about how he puts his foot in his mouth in interviews and says dumb shit all the time. But there are like, I don't know, if you were making this movie today and you put like Channing Tatum in that role, nothing against Channing Tatum. I think he's a good actor and I enjoy his work, but like that fits him more than it fits Matt Damon, right? There had to be an analog, somebody in 2004 that you could have latched that characterization onto that would fit better.
And I don't know, maybe that's why they're doing it because they think he thinks he's smart. And so they're just like, we're just going to pretend he's dumb. And that's just the most pain-inflicting way they could think to mock him.
We'll get into it later, whether or not he was bothered by it.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, he was. Do you want me to get into the making of the movie? It was quite a torturous production.
For sure. Let's hear how this thing happened.
While they're obviously best known for their many decades of work on South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone always had big screen ambitions. The duo collaborated on 1993's live-action film Cannibal the Musical, with Parker playing the titular cannibal, Albert Packer, a 19th century prospector who was actually convicted of cannibalism. Troma picked up the film, though it wouldn't be released until 1996, and even then it was a very limited release.
When you make your movie about a cannibal, it eats away at the audience.
Though it would eventually become Troma's best-selling movie once Parker and Stone struck it big with South Park. The duo also had a background in animation as they collaborated on the 1992 stop-motion short film Jesus vs. Frosty and produced a follow-up in 1995, Jesus vs. Santa. The films were combined into one title, The Spirit of Christmas, and picked up a cult following. Parker and Stone fleshed out some of the characters from the short into an idea for a cartoon about a quiet Colorado town, which would eventually become South Park.
They're gonna have themselves a time.
It debuted on Comedy Central in August of 1997 and was an immediate success, but the boys couldn't let their big screen dreams go. Orgasmo premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September of 1997, just 1 month after South Park's first episode. Its porn-heavy content saddled the movie with the dreaded NC-17 rating, though, and it was given a very limited release on October 23, 1998, only making about $600,000, though it has gone on to be a cult favorite. In July of 1998, the pair had another movie come out, as they starred, but did not write or direct, the sports comedy Basketball, with comedy luminary David Zucker behind the camera. It bombed hard, making $7 million on a $25 million budget, but it became a cult classic, blah, blah, blah. Are you noticing a trend?
I'm seriously, guys.
1999 saw Parker and Stone's only box office success story, as South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut was released on June 30th, 1999. Grossing $83 million on a $21 million budget and receiving strong reviews, the movie was a bona fide hit, and the duo would spend most of their time and energy on South Park for the next few years. After stumbling upon some episodes of the 1960s British sci-fi puppet show Thunderbirds, they were interested in doing a Thunderbirds movie, only to be stymied when they found out a live-action reboot was in development by Jonathan Frakes. Yes, that Jonathan Frakes. Riker from Star Trek. He directs stuff too.
Is it possible this story is true? Yes, it is. You're right. It's fact.
Undeterred, Parker and Stone began ideating on their own puppet action movie, with the film being announced on October 17th, 2002, and confirmed to be an homage to the original Thunderbirds show. In June 2003, Stone was quoted as saying the project was intended to be a send-up of the super important huge action movies that Jerry Bruckheimer makes.
Yeah, send them up to destroy an asteroid.
The movie caused something of a civil war at Paramount, with famously nice guy producer Scott Rudin championing the film and other executives expressing concerns about the commercial viability of an R-rated puppet movie.
The Happy Time Murders would like to disagree, but they can't.
Parker, Stone, and longtime collaborator Pam Brady worked on the script for 2 years, now titled Team America World Police. They took cues from lots of popular action and disaster films like Alien, Top Gun, and SWAT. The original script was finished and turned in well in advance of the U.S. war in Iraq, and was rewritten heavily to incorporate both the war and the response to the war from quote-unquote Hollywood liberals. Production began on May 23, 2004, with a $32 million budget and proved to be a huge undertaking. Operating the puppets was complicated, requiring a crew of over 200 people and up to 4 puppeteers handling one puppet at a time. This unfortunately led to the scrapping of whole scenes and sequences, and the movie was constantly rewritten while in production. With an October 15, 2004 release date looming, the filmmakers were working 20-hour days to complete the film in time.
They were hanging by a string.
Luckily, post-production was relatively simple, as Parker and Stone insisted on practical effects for all of the action scenes over CGI. Filming was completed just weeks before the movie's release date, with many of the cast, crew, and studio personnel seeing the completed movie for the first time at the premiere. Released to strong reviews, the movie opened in third place, taking in $12.1 million, behind the third week of Shark Tale and the second week of Friday Night Lights.
Clear eyes, puppet barf, can't lose.
Team America showed reasonable legs in its second week, dropping 47% for a $6.3 million take, but by week 3 it had dropped to 8th place and was being pulled from some theaters. The movie eventually brought in just over $50 million worldwide. Not a complete financial disaster like Basketball, but a money loser nonetheless. Like every other fucking movie I've talked about in this monologue, Team America has maintained a strong cult following and home media sales were reportedly very profitable, but it remains the last trip to the big screen for Parker and Stone so far. Had to say so far because we'll find out later.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm among those people, like probably a lot of people listening to this who will go, oh, wait, this movie bombed? Like it was kind of a sensation in my social circle, at least. And
mine too.
It's certainly like a movie where all the songs were immediately in the public consciousness, right? Everybody was singing America, fuck yeah, Montage, and all that stuff. It felt like it caught fire culturally, but it did not at the box office.
Montage even, like you hear America, fuck yeah, occasionally today, probably more occasionally today than in years past, honestly. But Montage has really lived on and been used in other media. And I don't think people remember that it came from this movie. It's even been used in South Park episodes.
It's a transcendent piece of cultural commentary because it's one of those things like...
Very well done.
Yeah, like a George Carlin classic comedy routine where somebody says something for the first time and you go, oh my God, that's exactly the way that thing is. And nobody had ever said it before, but it hits home so hard.
It's hitting on a truth so universal you never thought to even consider it.
Movie montages and also something silly. And really, that's where this movie excels. It takes on a bunch of things at the same time, which is actually in its credit. It's a degree of difficulty that it's not just trying to be an action movie or political satire of the current moment, but it's like doing homage to filmmaking, and it does all that stuff really well. And it's doing this big lift of being a marionette movie. Like that is crazy. And it spends a lot of its time making the most of the humor of the way that it's filmed and the way that it's acted with these puppets.
It's also a love story. It's got a huge love story in the center of it.
Yeah.
A couple love stories, but like one main one, obviously.
It's fully featured. And so the movie is at its best, I think, where it's doing the 80s movie tribute stuff, right? It does all these tropes, and where it's doing the musical stuff. The songs are good. These guys have always been good at putting out great comedy songs. And then what's the third thing? At the puppetry.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. And they just mine a bunch of really good laughs out of reminding you of the fact that these are puppets and they're trying to do action and drama and comedy and romance with puppets.
Yeah, I think we sounded a little sour on this movie when we were talking before the monologue. But to be clear, this movie is very funny and very well made. I just don't think it's funny in the ways it thinks it is or would maybe like to be.
In all the ways. It's funny in some of the ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. It misses the mark in a couple big ways, but there are still lots of laughs in this movie.
And the ways it misses the mark are the ways that it's trying to offend. So, like, I don't know if they would care, right? Because the movie's trying to say, fuck you, we're going to be crude, we're going to be offensive, we're going to be regressive in our language and our tone and stuff. And that's the stuff that's hard to take.
All that being said, we've talked about how they mined all this humor from the puppetry and the settings. Should we maybe talk about some of those situations in more depth so we can inform the listeners?
Yeah, you want to get into this story?
Let's do it.
Here we go. It is the early 2000s. The premier weapon in the war on terror is a U.S. squad of global cops called Team America World Police. On a mission in Paris, Team America successfully intercepts the handoff of a briefcase containing weapons of mass destruction, and they kill a group of Middle Eastern terrorists, while inadvertently destroying the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, and the Louvre. But there's bad news too, as team member Carson is killed by a terrorist bullet, breaking the heart of his teammate and fiancée Lisa. Meanwhile, back home, talented actor Gary Johnston is a star on Broadway. One night night after a show, Gary gets a visit backstage from Spotswood, the silver-haired leader of Team America. Whisking Gary away in a flying limousine to the group's secret headquarters inside Mount Rushmore, Spotswood explains about an impending attack involving more WMDs. He implores Gary to join Team America, as only Gary has the unique acting prowess they need to infiltrate the terrorists' ranks and foil the attack. Gary turns down the offer and he leaves, but on his way home, he visits a series of iconic American monuments and has a change of heart. Meanwhile, we learn that far away in North Korea, sassy, bratty villain Kim Jong-il is the mastermind behind the massive terrorist plot.
Lisa and Carson were only fiance for 40 seconds. It's not that deep.
They did a power run of action movie tropes. The way he proposes to her, the way the terrorist slow-mo pops out of the fountain when you think the danger's gone. There's that one villain that pops up and gets you, and then the way he's dying. Like, this movie is just jam-packed with the way movies are done from the 80s.
I think the South Park guys are almost somehow underrated as like, what's somebody who does homages? An homagist?
Maybe.
As homagists? They're so good at identifying what makes a genre work.
Yes.
And turning it on its head a little bit. And they're good at when it comes to filmmaking and music. So they're really a dual threat in that regard. And both are put to very effective use in this movie.
Yeah, and that's where you can feel the love, right? This is stuff that they're into. And I get it because I'm roughly the same age as Trey and Pam and Matt. And I grew up on those same action movies. So those Schwarzenegger-style moments and Stallone-style moments, all that stuff. I feel that too. Like, I grew up on those one-liners. This movie has all these one-liners. When the good guys are dispatching the bad guys, they always do those action movie hero little pithy sayings. And funny enough, I have a tidbit related to that.
Uh-oh.
In this first scene, Lisa faces down one terrorist and she goes, "Hey, terrorist, terrorize this." And she blows him away. And that gets called back at the end. So that's like very standard. And then another character, I think it might have been Chris, faces off this other terrorist and he goes, "You lose." And he blows him away. And
yeah, I think that was Chris.
I don't know if that's specifically from another movie, an actual theatrical movie, but that's from a movie that I did at least 10 years before. My buddy Kiyoshi said that line to the evil emperor of the universe. He was portraying Lance Moonbeam, hero of the universe, in our movie, which was called Space Squabble 50,000 BC.
This is a real Buckaroo Banzai homage, it sounds like.
I mentioned this on the show before, but literally the climax of that movie, he takes the Mega Blaster away from the Overlord of the universe, turns it back on the guy and says, "You lose," and blasts him into smithereens. And like, it's so funny to me when a character said that in Team America.
Ian, do you have a copy of this movie?
You asked me before and I haven't looked for it.
I
think I have it packed away in a box somewhere.
If we can find it and record a live commentary, we could release it.
We'll see. There will be stages. If I find it, there will be stages of me watching it through my fingers with
Vetting
my
it,
eyes
yeah.
squinted and possibly sharing it or possibly even admitting that I found it.
I feel like I'm going to ask you this question. This is going to come up every once a year. We're going to come up with something where you're like, that reminds me of something from the movie I made. And I'm going to be like, did you ever find it? You're like, no.
But we were going on instinct. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just so saturated in this exact same stuff as kids. That's just what came out of us when we tried to make movies. So it's weird for me to reflect on movies later and go, I didn't know I knew that was a trope. It was just in my body as a child. And like, I said those things when I pointed a camera at myself.
You've got the music in you, man.
I guess
Can't help
so.
it. Well, let's talk about the opening scene, this Paris attack. I do love how they opened with these very rickety looking puppets and backdrops, only to pull back and reveal that it's actually like a puppeteer puppeting this shitty puppet.
Yes, doing a kid's puppet show on the street. And then there's these amazing marionettes actually doing the puppeting.
And these sprawling sets. Like, it's very impressive the first time you see it. I love, and I fully admit that it's because there are just some people it's okay to be racist to in modern day America. So like when the French only talk and like, oh, bonbon, sacre bleu, I find that hilarious.
Croissant.
Yeah, like they have like 7 words and phrases they just repeat, and that's how they communicate all of their needs and wants.
The movie draws you into its dangerous political incorrectness by first targeting the French, which we think is fair game and safe and nobody's harmed because the French can't be offended or they somehow deserve it.
In 2004, we really thought they deserved it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Is it because they wouldn't invade Iraq with us? I think we were mad at them for that.
Yeah, we renamed the Freedom Fries and all that shit. So yeah, they were a hot target at the time.
Now it's going to be Spain.
And then it gets ickier and ickier as they start doing the same kind of reductionist lampooning of other cultures, which don't feel as secure as the French do.
And that is a double standard on our part, that we feel like we can make fun of the French, but not Middle Eastern cultures or Asian cultures.
Right.
But it still feels true. I don't know what else to say. That's just
yeah. And in some ways, I don't know what's the right word for it, but it's a vote of confidence in the French that punching the French isn't punching down. puppets punching up.
Right. And as an Italian-American man, I can say that Italians are one of the last groups that are also okay to make fun of.
Okay.
And be racist towards.
Yeah, they're kind of in that category.
Because we are pretty silly at times, let's be honest. We do a lot of funny things. We pronounce words all wrong.
But to your first point, the look of the film is fantastic. They got Bill Pope to be the cinematographer, who's a famous DP who did The Matrix and all kinds of other huge movies that are noted for their incredible cinematography. And they're like, oh, guess what? You got to do puppets and you got to make them look amazing. They're lit so well.
Yeah.
They're shot so well that alone is just a joke that works throughout the movie. Every time you see a character in a new scene and the lighting resembles the best dramatic lighting you've seen in a movie with real actors, it's worth a laugh. It's really well done.
And kudos to him and the puppeteers for capturing such expressiveness on the puppets' faces in moments.
Yes.
Their face and their demeanor always matches the tone of the scene or what they're going for, which is not an easy thing to do, as we learned in the Happy Time Murders.
Yeah, they're really good puppets and really good puppeteering, and they're not realistic. I mean, they're semi-realistic, but it's not because they're so fully featured. They're just really well done. And then they always get a laugh out of setting up a dramatic moment or a high tension moment or a romance moment, and then reminding you that these are just things on a string, and then they bob along, and it's hilarious.
Anytime two puppets fight each other, it's hilarious because there's clearly just two guys just kind of shaking them and
Taking them
into each other.
Jiggling them up against each other. It's really funny.
It's interesting, though, that Bill Pope was the DP on The Matrix. There was a bit of I don't know if it was a gaffe or an intentional racist reference, but in the third act, Samuel L. Jackson says to one member of Team America, can't remember which, "Stop trying to hit me and hit me," which of course is a line from The Matrix, which is said by Lawrence Fishburne, who is not Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh,
which
I didn't put that together, but yes, is that itself a joke that they didn't know the difference?
You gotta hope, you gotta believe.
As opposed to actually doing it by accident, which would be
racist.
Genuinely insulting.
Yeah. All right, let's see. We do get our first signature song in this section when Gary is going on a dark night of the soul to consider the offer Spotswood made him. Not the offer to give him head. It's a recurring theme with Spotswood being his name, and he always wants someone to suck his dick is like a funny, stupid bit that I think is pretty good.
One of many funny and stupid bits.
We get Freedom Isn't Free, which this movie and song did not coin that phrase that had been around for a long time, but just a hilarious send-up of patriotic country music, which is like one of the best genres to mock.
It's an easy target. It's really well done. It's super memorable. It's another one of those songs, like instant classic songs. And then to top it off, it's really short.
Yeah.
Like this movie is really well paced. It's a tight 97 minutes. And even when they launch into a song, except with a couple exceptions, they don't do full songs. They hit you with the best part of the song and then they move on and the movie keeps moving forward. And I got to give them credit for that because I love a movie that knows when it's time to move on.
Yeah, these are abridged versions of the songs that appear on the soundtrack. So they did write full, like 3-minute versions of all these songs, but they very deftly cut them down to just the most thematic parts for the movie.
Yeah, it shows a lot of restraint and good judgment to just get the most and leave people wanting more.
I think I said freedom costs $1.05 for years after this movie came out.
I know. It's so many iconic phrases and hooks in these songs. It's pretty impressive.
They've always been musically inclined. They put out the Chef Aid album after South Park had only been on the air for like a year.
Oh, really?
So they've always used their comedy to scratch their musical itch because they clearly are inclined, or at least Parker is. I don't know how much Stone is involved in the music. I assume at least a little bit.
I don't know with anything, and it may not be fair to Matt Stone, but at a certain point...
You're hitting on something that I've felt for a long time, so please continue.
Yeah, it's like at a certain point when I caught wind of how the two of them came across, I'm like, oh, it's just all Trey Parker.
Yeah.
And Matt Stone is like the buddy who like smokes with him and does some of the voices and helps him a little bit, but maybe that's unfair to Matt Stone, but it does seem like all this stuff is Trey Parker's vision through and through.
If they have a 50-50 split on South Park royalties, then Matt Stone hit the fucking lottery. Even sometimes he'll be like, I don't remember how to do that voice, so we just had to write that character off the show. And I was like, it's your one job. Come on.
Yeah, have some respect.
Although I think Parker said he's forgotten some. I can't remember who did Bar Brady, but they said they don't use him anymore because they can't do the voice. I forgot how.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was, like I said, not a huge South Park fan, but I definitely have watched it throughout its existence. And the way it changed and evolved is interesting because I think Team America came out at a time when I think South Park still hadn't really fully hit its stride. I think like the late aughts is when I think it got a little smarter and its comedy was a little more focused.
It's a long show. It's one of those shows that you really have to be committed to follow it through its decades of evolution and make sense of the whole thing. I think I was into it for a short stretch, but I by no means feel expert on it at all.
For me, the apex of South Park is Imagination Land, which was like a multi-part kind of epic storyline.
Okay, I remember that.
And that was 2007. So that was 3 years after Team America. And that kind of tracks what I was saying, like the late aughts was when they really hit their stride. but now they just release episodes whenever they feel like, and they don't really do full seasons anymore. And they've also done like serialized seasons where it's one storyline the whole way through. They obviously went very hard on the Trump administration this past season. So I think they've sharpened their political point of view to some extent since this movie. But yeah, we are going to have to grapple because Act 2 is where all that starts to come to the surface.
More hard work ahead.
Should we get into it, or is there something from Act 1 that I missed?
I think we're ready to move on.
All right. Before Gary's first undercover mission for Team America, they give him extensive high-tech laser surgery to modify his appearance, then drop him into a shady tavern in Cairo where more WMDs are being exchanged. After a tentative start, Gary overcomes his fears and manages to pass as a terrorist. After a battle and a chase, the terrorist cell is successfully destroyed, and so are the Great Pyramid, the Great Temple of Ramses II, and the Sphinx. Back home, Lisa and Gary bond, and Gary reveals to her the cause of his deep insecurity about acting. As a little boy, Gary was acting when he fell into a gorilla enclosure at the zoo, and his older brother was killed trying to rescue him. Lisa and Gary's bond then blossoms into romance, but at the same moment they're consummating their relationship, terrorists blow up the Panama Canal, causing great death and destruction. Alec Baldwin and the other activist members of the Film Actors Guild go on TV to put the blame for these repeated tragedies on Team America. Gary is distraught because Alec Baldwin is his favorite actor, and he's crushed to think his acting has once again led to tragedy. So he quits the team and walks out, vowing to never act again. The remaining members follow a lead on the location of more WMDs and take to their planes and helicopters for a mission. But it's a setup concocted by Kim Jong-il, whose fighter jets shoot down and capture the rest of Team America. And while the team is away, crazed documentary filmmaker Michael Moore infiltrates Mount Rushmore, strapped with explosives. Moore confronts Spotswood and blows himself up, devastating the Team America HQ. Meanwhile, Gary has hit rock bottom, getting blackout drunk in a dive bar as an old man lectures him on the types of people in the world. Oblivious to the plight of his former teammates, Gary stumbles into an alley, throws up, and passes out.
A lot of that synopsis was rather understated compared to how it plays on screen.
For example, when you say Gary stumbles into an alley, throws up, and passes out, you failed to mention that he throws up for like a minute and a half.
It's so much throwing up. It's part of the gross out comedy, but also the puppet comedy of this. It's just ridiculous to see a puppet vibrating and pumping out all this fake vomit. It's super gross. It's hard to take, but it still makes you laugh because it's just, I don't know, that's the good stuff in this movie when it's just being stupid and silly.
It is stupid and silly, absolutely. But part of the reason it's so funny is that like the filmmakers understand the tropes of these type of scenes, so they use them against it, where
absolutely
the music fades out as Gary like starts to lose steam on his vomit, and then it just like ramps right back up into this crescendo as he like keeps vomiting.
It's so stirring. It's this really emotional orchestral music as he's vomiting. It goes to Mach 3. It's very
funny. Good. It's very well done. And there are some of my favorite jokes are in this section of the movie, specifically the Cairo mission. Like Gary's disguise being so fucking bad is very funny to me. He looks like absolute dog shit. And like the movie knows it. It's not like an accident. Right. They made him look terrible on purpose. But my favorite joke in this movie is when Spotswood says, in case you get captured, you'll probably want to take your own life. You should have this. And he hands him a hammer, which is just, that's one of my favorite jokes, not in this movie, in all of media. I've thought about that joke every day. Like that crystallized something about my sense of humor as a teenager. And I was like, that's the funniest shit ever.
It's really good. It's a straight ahead joke. It has no political valence or anything. It's just a joke. It's really good. And it has a little callback because later when he's at rock bottom in the bar, that hammer is sitting next to him with a ton of empty shot glasses and beer glasses. So that's the sign that he's contemplating suicide because he's got the hammer out.
If you're ranking ways to successfully commit suicide, self-inflicted hammer wound had to be close to the bottom.
That's a tough one. That's a bad one.
And then, of course, we get the iconic song for the second time now, right? Does it play over the opening credits or?
I think this is the intro of America Fuck Yeah. I think this is the first time we hear it.
And the lyrics to this is a great song, very well written, but like the lyrics do betray some awareness from Parker and Stone about America's failings politically.
Yeah. My observation is this is the one part of the movie in this song where they're successful at achieving the both sidesism that they try to do less successfully with a lot of the other aspects of the movie. But this song works as an actual inspirational, jingoistic, rah-rah song, which like it did for me kind of at the time. And I'm sure it did for a lot of boys younger than me because it's a song that says America fuck yeah. It's like, yeah, you can get hyped up on that while knowing that it's incredibly stupid and self-mocking at the same time. So to me, this is where they hit the sweet spot.
And there's like a section at the end of the song. I'm not even sure if it even plays in the movie where they're just listing things and saying, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And that gets progressively more like ridiculous until finally they're like slavery,
right?
Which is a joke joke that I guess The Lonely Island stole for Everything Is Awesome by just like naming mundane things and being like, that's awesome.
Yeah, same bit. I think it plays in the middle of the credits somewhere. And to their credit, I think, as I recall, they do hesitate to say fuck yeah on slavery, or at least they stumble over that one.
It's there's a chorus of voices saying fuck yeah with the rest of them. And then there's like a smattering when they say slavery. Yeah. There's like just 3 or 4 guys being like, fuck yeah. So they're clearly, their heart's in the right place some of the time at least.
Yeah.
And just the mass destruction of all these landmarks also is like a smart commentary on America's foreign policy and how little regard we give to like soft targets when we're in the middle of a mission, which has become only more prescient in the last couple of weeks.
I know we didn't even talk about the context in which we're recording this episode.
We just invaded we didn't invade Iran yet on the ground, but we've been bombing them for a few days now.
Yeah, it's Bush era all over again. We're going to war in the Middle East.
And I'd like to make it clear, we did not reschedule this episode because of those events. This was on the schedule for months.
This was on the schedule. They're copying us, if anything, which is chilling to think.
Very upsetting.
I think it's just a weird coincidence. But again, it makes this stuff more poignant for us to watch it and go, oh, wow, I can barely remember what it was like to be at war then, but we're there again now. So fresh as everything.
Yeah. And so much of what the Film Actors Guild members, which that's just a crap joke, but the Film Actors Guild, obviously fag.
Yeah.
That's the joke. But so much of what they're being mocked for in this movie is stuff that's happening right now, and people are speaking out about it. And I don't think Parker and Stone would treat it with the same cavalier attitude they did back then, because they were kids. They were like little 35-year-old children. They didn't know. What did they know about the big wide world? They were just 35-year-old millionaires.
It's clear that they're annoyed that Tim Robbins is one of the examples. He's the guy who has a specific thing he talks about when his puppet gets on screen, which is corporations. And we got to fight the corporations. And then he stumbles. I know that's the thing. Like, he can't explain why corporations are bad. And the joke is on Tim Robbins because he knows he's supposed to complain about them, but he can't articulate anything bad about corporations. And I'm like, we don't have that problem anymore. That's pretty well known.
This was pre-Citizens United, so I guess there is like some leeway to be
that's true
less clear on how evil they are. But yeah, all right, so let's go over some of the people that are skewered here. You already brought up Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
Matt Damon. So I did hint that I had some background on Matt Damon's characterization in this movie. So he sounded hurt by this. Okay. He considered himself friends of Stone and Parker. I guess he knew them socially a little bit. I know George Clooney was good friends with them as well. He actually voiced, I think it was Stan's gay dog in some very early episodes of
I remember that. Yeah.
South Park. That was George Clooney. So he came out, he had no problem with Clooney was fine. Alec Baldwin was fine. He thought it was hilarious. He offered to do the voice himself.
Oh, wow.
But Matt Damon said, and I'm gonna read this long quote from him about it because I think it's important. I was always kind of bewildered by Team America. I think because it's hard for us to understand what our images are in public, I think we're not good judges of that. And when I saw myself on screen just only being able to say my own name and not really that well, I kind of wondered, is that how people perceive me? At that point, I was just like, I'm a screenwriter and an actor. I can barely say my own name. So I was kind of bewildered by that. And I never talked to Trey and Matt about that. And incidentally, I believe those two are geniuses, and I don't use that word lightly. I think they are absolute geniuses, and what they've done is awesome, and I'm a big fan of theirs. But I never quite understood that one. But I will say this, those of us who were parodied in that video were parodied because we were against the Iraq war, and we went on the record against the war, and so history is on my side and not theirs. That doesn't sound like he doesn't care about what happened.
No, he was hurt. That matches with my theory of the case, which is what they were just being mean bullies to him for some reason that he didn't even know.
Yeah. Like I said, lots of things about Matt Damon's public image bother me. I don't think he's stupid. Like, I don't think he's incapable of speaking eloquently. The things he says are sometimes dumb.
You had just brought up the other week that, like, there's been this role flip between the Affleck-Damon brothers' public personas where for a long time, Damon came across as the articulate intellectual of the two friends. Right. And Affleck was the everyman, Dunkin' drinking, donut eating guy.
He was like kind of a meathead too. Like, he's tall, he's jacked. He seems like a bro's bro. And I always remember this Family Guy joke where it was like the two of them writing Good Will Hunting, but it was really like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck was just like, oh, would you throw my name on that too? But now, like, in hindsight, yeah, I don't know. That's necessarily been proven to be the case.
I mean, the truth is they're both intellectual guys, but Affleck has been showing a little bit more of that in public. But at the same time, he's still having fun with all the stereotypes with the Dunkin' ads and the various self-parody stuff he's gotten into. He's got a great sense of humor, obviously.
Yes, except he did just sell an AI startup. So,
oh yeah, he just covered himself in shame.
I want to like him so bad. Like, I want to be a Ben Affleck fan so bad. And a couple of years will go by and I'll be like, all right, I think I'm in the clear. And then I'll do some dumb shit. Do you want to hear how famously calm and level-headed Sean Penn responded to his portrayal in this movie?
Oh my gosh, what happened?
He wrote Parker and Stone a letter inviting them to come to Iraq with him to tour it and see what it's like after America bombed the shit out of it. And he signed it fuck you. Sounds about right.
That's perfect. He played right into the way they stereotyped him.
No, but I don't think they did. Like, he doesn't come across as angry in the movie. He comes across almost like soft-spoken and sensitive in the movie, where like he's like an angry, violent dude, allegedly.
I guess he picked up on what they picked up on, because his character in the movie said something to the effect of, I've been to Iraq, and before we intervened, it was a beautiful place full of unicorns and rainbows. So they paint him as pie-eyed and out of touch with reality.
Which is obviously not a realistic portrayal of what Iraq was like, but also like they had schools and homes before we blew them all up.
Yeah.
So there's some truth to what he's saying. It was probably better for the common people before we bomb them.
Or obviously bombing them to hell wasn't the only solution to solving the country's leadership problems.
And then we get to the main target of their vitriol, which is Michael Moore.
Yeah.
So Michael Moore, I don't know if this movie came out before Fahrenheit 9/11 or after. Certainly came out after Bowling for Columbine, which was 2002.
Okay.
Michael Moore's portrayal of this movie is what made me question this movie's point of view as a teenager, because a big part of the reason I became politically aware and left-leaning was because of Michael Moore.
Oh, okay.
By the time this movie came out, I had already watched Roger and Me probably half a dozen times. I was very taken by that documentary for some reason, and I'm not sure why. For those who aren't familiar, it was Michael Moore's first film in 1989, and it's basically about, was it the Ford plant or the GM plant? I think it was GM leaving Flint, Michigan, which was really their only big employer, and it devastated the city, caused lots of problems that are still going on. And the conceit of the film was he's trying to interview the CEO and just ask him about it. But then he also does a lot of slice of life segments with residents of Flint, people who maybe worked at the factory or were married to somebody who worked at the factory, and just kind of see the failings of capitalism and how they've been abandoned by the capitalist structure of America has really taken a toll on this community. And it opened my eyes in a lot of ways. And then, of course, Bowling for Columbine, this examination of gun culture in America, had a big impact on me as well, because I was in middle school, I think, when Columbine happened. And when school shootings really started picking up steam, I was in high school, and it resonated with me. And then, of course, as time's gone on, I've reevaluated my relationship with Michael Moore, because I still think he is a good introduction to leftist politics, but there's always questions of objectivity with documentarians. And of course, he's had some serious ones raised over the years. But just like the skewering of him in the way they do it in this movie made me feel bad at the time, and it still makes me feel bad.
Yeah, well, you obviously have a very informed and nuanced take on Michael Moore. I had none of that. Like, I was vaguely aware who he was, but even so, I saw him portrayed in this movie. I'm like, what the fuck did Michael Moore do to these guys? They absolutely savage him. They make him just a disgusting slob, and then a monster, becomes a suicide bomber just for very vague reasons that make him into the most, of all these actors that they go after in this movie, they go after Michael Moore 10 times worse.
Yeah, he's always got 2 hot dogs in his hands. He's covered in condiments. He talks in a very almost like Damon-esque way. Like he's not a man of words, let's say.
Right. He's inarticulate. Yeah, he's
also not even an effective suicide bomber. He doesn't kill anyone but himself. Or does he kill Baxter? I don't remember. Baxter's not really much of a character in this movie. He's just a limo driver. But Spotswood survives.
Is Baxter even a man?
I don't know. That's a good question. Spotswood survives, and Intelligence survives.
That's true. It wasn't a very successful bombing. Baxter is a real mystery. We don't even have time to go into Baxter. They mentioned Baxter, or someone calls out Baxter's name in that scene, I think Spotswood, but I didn't see him or her in that shot. So I'm like, they disappear?
Yeah, I think he calls out thinking that's who Michael Moore was when he heard footsteps.
Is that you, Baxter?
And then it turns out to be Michael Moore.
Baxter's a real enigma. It looks like a woman with a fake mustache. And who is it? And what does that mean? What is it supposed to be?
It's hard to imagine that there was like storylines from a movie that was this intensive to make. You kind of film everything.
Oh yeah, you did mention that they had to rewrite some things. They had to restructure some stuff in the middle. It would be really interesting to find out what Baxter was supposed to be and what we didn't get.
We didn't make a note about Intelligence, but I do want to talk about Intelligence briefly. I find Intelligence very charming. Intelligence is kind of like their big computer that they talk to, almost like Zord from the Power Rangers.
Yeah, I find Intelligence very attractive, but I realize you're talking about the acronym Intelligence, which is the name of the mastermind computer.
Which they never actually care to explain, to describe the acronym, right? We never get what it actually stands for.
It's just got a lot of periods in it.
I swore that was Thomas Hayden Church for the longest time. Like, it sounds so much like him. It's like he's doing a Thomas Hayden Church impression. But there was one scene where we had some bad intelligence. It's bad intelligence. Bad. I'm sorry. I thought that was another good dumb joke.
Yeah, it's a silly little jokes. Those are fun.
Now we have to talk about another one of the more famous songs from this movie, but by far the most difficult to talk about. It is So Lonely by Kim Jong-il.
Yeah.
He doesn't pronounce it that way, though.
No. And I don't even want to talk about this too much, but I can't help wanting to mention it because it's such a catchy song. It's a classical musical theater type of song, and it's so well written. The melody, the lyrics aren't the joke because they're almost purely straight, like a song about a lonely man who's like misunderstood. The comedy is all in the juxtaposition of who's singing it and the way he sings it, which is in a demeaning accent.
Asian stereotype, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, they've had a character on South Park for almost since the beginning, the owner of City Walk, who does a similar
the same bit,
accent.
yeah.
But I do think that some of the lyrics are in service of the joke being his accent, because there's a lot of times where another word would have sufficed, but they use a word that has a lot of L's or R's in it so that they could flip them to make
They're
it
doing that
humorous.
on purpose, for sure. That's true. But yeah, it's a song that's super catchy, but I can't sing it because I'm like implicating myself in the racism and offending myself. It's a sad relic that they were so attached to that and felt so comfortable doing that. And that's one of the things that stuck out, even at that time when I was not as sensitive and aware as I am today. That characterization was one of the things that was like, oh shit, they're doing this.
And I think the Kim character is really funny on his own merits. I think he has a lot of qualities that you like in a villain. Unfortunately, I thought his name was Hans Blix for 20 years. I just found out it was like, I don't know who fucking UN guys are. Like, I didn't know who Hans Blix was.
I did. I wasn't fooled because I remember Hans Blix was a real person and I remember hearing about the UN inspections.
But when he's just like, Hans, you're breaking my balls, like just screaming at the top of his lungs. That's funny. Like, I love his temper, his outbursts, really good, but everything is kind of coated in this veneer of uncomfortableness.
Right. And certainly Kim Jong-il, as an evil, murderous, vicious dictator, is perfectly good fodder to go after as viciously as you want to, with the exception of just going, oh, and these people are Korean and they all talk funny and their traditional music sounds weird and we're just going to laugh at it a little bit in this for a while. Some of the stuff is just like, why did you go there?
They were just little kids.
Yeah.
They were just little 35-year-old millionaire kids. They didn't know any better. So we did it. We talked about So Lonely. I think we handled ourselves admirably.
There's one more risque song and scene to talk about that we didn't get to.
Oh, the sex scene. Right. How could we forget? The sex scene was, I remember that being a big topic of discussion when the movie came out. There's a sex scene.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not tame.
It's not holding back. The whole scene goes from one sex position to another. And each time you go, they can't show that. And then they do something else. They go, they can't show that.
And when you say one sex position to another, we're not talking like 4. They go through like 11. And some of them are pretty weird.
They get very creative. It's very funny. To me, that's the harmless good stuff. That's the puppetry humor. It's gross out humor, but at nobody's expense. And it's like you feel childish laughing at it, but you don't feel bad. Like I laughed like crazy at that scene.
Apparently they had to cut a golden shower and one of the characters, one of the puppets shitting on the other one to get an R rating.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I didn't need that. The scene that precedes the sex scene is also really funny though, and in a non-offensive way, because that's when Lisa says to Gary, if you could promise me that you'll never die, I'll have sex with you right now. And he goes, I promise I'll never die. But even the first time she says, he's like, what? I can't promise that. That's just a good joke.
Yeah, that was a good one. There's some that are just like pure jokes in line with the story that are really good. And you just wish they stick maybe a little more to those.
Let's talk about the song that plays over the sex scene. It's another good one. Only a Woman. This is a song that exemplifies how good they are at understanding the structure and the tropes of a song like this, a ballad from like the 80s is the vibe it gives, of this real masculine dude singing about making love. But then the lyrics are so vapid, intentionally so, that there is a lot of comedy there if you listen closely.
It sounds like a song where he's pledging to only this woman, like you are so special. And then without realizing it, the song is ratcheting down to it's just important that you be a woman.
Right.
And then we're good.
At the end of the song, he's just like scream singing, all I ask is that you're a woman. It's great stuff.
It's good.
All right. You ready to take us home?
All right, here we go. When Gary comes around from his bender, he realizes he misses Lisa and Team America. But when he gets back to Mount Rushmore, he's shocked to find it destroyed. Thankfully, he finds that Spotswood survived the explosion. After making Gary prove his loyalty, Spotswood agrees to let him back onto Team America. And none too soon, because Kim Jong-il has invited world leaders from all across the globe to a grand peace conference at his palace in North Korea, where Alec Baldwin and the Film Actors Guild will be the keynote speakers. But as he reveals to the captive members of Team America, Kim's real plan is to detonate WMDs in countries all around the globe while their leaders sit and watch helplessly. Gary undergoes a rapid training montage where he learns the fighting skills he'll need. Then he heads to North Korea to try to stop Kim's plan. Gary infiltrates the palace and he frees his teammates. The team members then make their way through the many halls and chambers, fighting and killing various celebrity actors along the way. With only minutes before the WMDs are set to explode, Gary reaches the stage and is gripped with doubt as he must face off against his idol Alec Baldwin. But Gary comes through and delivers a stirring speech, borrowing the metaphor on the different types of people in the world that he learned from the old man in the bar. Gary wins over the initially hostile crowd of world leaders, and with help from Lisa, he prevents the detonation of the WMDs. They even vanquish Kim Jong-il, who turns out to be a little cockroach alien that flies off in a tiny spaceship, vowing to return. In the end, the world is safe, Gary and Lisa are reunited, and Team America is back in business policing the world.
Hey, how did Spotswood convince Gary to prove his loyalty? What did he do?
That's very complicated. They had to go back to the night they first met when they had not established a bond of trust. And there's this whole thing, and he just had to...
Not going to cut it.
It's super crude. It's one of the most uncomfortable running gags in the movie because it makes sense at first. Gary first meets him and says, "Oh, who are you? This old guy's inviting me into a limo. You want me to suck your cock?" And he's like, "No, I'm not from Hollywood. I don't do that." And then
he gets in the limo.
And he gets in the limo and he says, "Now suck my cock." Just kidding. And so you're like, what's really going on here? And then the screenwriting goes, it's quite skillful. Yeah. The way they bring it around, he goes, "Remember the first night we met? I need to know that you're fully dedicated." So it's not only that like he wants his dick sucked, but he wants to make this straight man go through the humiliation just to prove how much he cares and that nothing would stop him from rescuing the rest of his teammates and saving the world.
Yeah, when Gary says, "But I thought you weren't gay," Spotswood's like, "It's not about sex." And I was like, he's going to say it's about power because it's about trust, which of course it's not about sex. It's about power is what many people say about rape, which this kind of is. It's coercion at the very least.
It's some very strong coercion. It's very uncomfortable.
It's also kind of funny though.
Unfortunately, it is funny. And unfortunately, they turned their comedic genius on writing this in a way that you can't argue with the logic that he uses in the end to make it make sense and make it work in the story.
Yeah, that was an excuse to make you describe the events, but also I think it's a worthwhile discussion.
You coerced me into saying it out loud, which was bad enough.
I feel like I always get saddled with saying the more lurid parts of the movie.
I know. I'm the soft boy who can't handle that stuff, so I decided I had to step up this time.
Also, good comedy in Gary's reaction when he first says it. He's like, what? Can't be serious.
Yes, that's a classic Trey Parker. And I noticed several characters have those moments where they're confronted with something weird and they almost drop their character voice and they respond as though they're just totally off guard.
It works. Almost every time it works.
Yeah, it's very funny stuff.
And then we get a lot of songs in this act, only two maybe, but some big ones. Pearl Harbor Sucks, which
that's a very specific thing to include in a love song about how he misses Lisa.
But he's got a lot of good points about the movie Pearl Harbor and also love and relationships. Really goes after Ben Affleck pretty hard, which I guess he was supposed to be in here and they had a puppet that had no head, but just a hand where his head was supposed to be. Ooh. And that was going to be Ben Affleck, whatever that means.
Yeah, that's weird.
So clearly they didn't let him off the hook all the way, but at least some of the way.
We went off on Michael Bay in our last episode pretty hard, and we have to kind of agree with Trey on this one. He's got his flaws as a filmmaker.
You don't say. But when the song's playing, we also get another really funny puppet shot of Gary riding a puppet-sized motorcycle on a full-sized road.
Yeah. So
he just looks like a speck on the middle of this road as he rides down on the open road on his motorcycle. There's also like a scene where all the Team America vehicles crash into the water. And I don't even know why. It was so obvious that they were like much smaller than a real boat or plane would be, but it was.
Yeah.
And I can't really explain how they pulled that off because they're in the open water. There's no context of like size, but I could still just tell.
Yeah, it's the way things splash. I think when they do miniatures with water, when they're trying to make them look big, they go through a lot of effort to like slow-mo the water and change the way it churns at a much smaller scale. But you can just see it's like a 6-inch toy splashing into a bathtub. It's very
like
funny.
A balsa wood plane just falling in the water. Yeah. And then we get some more skewering of the actors, but some funny stuff in this section. There was one sequence when Martin Sheen and Tim Robbins are guarding some of the members of Team America, and they're like, "Please stop doing this. Let us go." And they go, "No, we're guards. We're supposed to be guards.
We're guards.
Guards."
Guards.
And they just keep saying guards.
It's
like this kind of
dumb
growl on the R's. It's so stupid.
It's like, where did that come from? But it is funny.
And then another one of my favorite puppet humor humor moments is the house cats as these giant panthers that Kim Jong-il keeps to execute people. They're clearly like very adorable, normal sized, maybe even smaller than normal sized cats.
Two little black cats come out and they menace them, and then they turn the tides. They get, what's her name, the psychic member of the force? Sarah gets her little character arc, because throughout the movie, it's clear that her psychic powers are a scam. She thinks she can sense things and she's just self-deluded. And Joe even tells her, Sarah, don't try to telepathically communicate with the cats. Your psychic powers aren't real. And she does. She succeeds. She has a little vindication, and she gets the cats to jump through the glass and kill the actors.
In a gruesome way. Like, they really loaded these puppets up with SpaghettiOs or something. I don't know what they did, but like when these things die, they bleed and they have entrails and all the good stuff.
And it's funny because like I was okay with that. I was uncomfortable with all the part where they were mocking the actors for their politics. But when they just decided that the team had to fight the actors with guns and martial arts and swords, and they all had to die in gruesome ways, I'm like, actually, that's funny, because it was funny watching all the puppets die with horrible gore.
There is something inherently like humorous about seeing Helen Hunt wield a katana. Like that's just silly. And in those moments, there's just not as much room to inject these kind of mean-spirited barbs at them. They're just fight scenes, and they're just adversarial characters at that point. So it did take some of the tension out in a good way.
Yeah, it made it easier to enjoy the silliness.
Now, a point I was trying to think is the Film Actors Guild role in these terrorist attacks and their kind of unwittingness. We're going to be pretty generous to Trey and Matt here with this reading, but is there something about how well-meaning liberals can be tools of fascism and can kind of enable fascism unwittingly?
I mean, that's what they're literally doing, right? The stated opinions of the Film Actors Guild is that we should try to solve our problems by talking instead of fighting, and sort of stuff that's entirely reasonable, but they seem to have foolishly overestimated their significance. I think that's what they're going after, is like their sense of self-importance and the idea that they think they can solve problems, and the idea that they would fall for a peace conference hosted by the dictator of North Korea, on one hand says, okay, this is how you take it too far, how you think you're too important, and you also aren't so naive that you think that you're doing something good when you're clearly siding with evil. But I would take that as his point, except for the fact that every single world leader also took up that same invitation, right? Like they were also fooled. Tony Blair is there, like all kinds of recognizable leaders of respectable nations around the world. So it kind of undercuts the point that they were total dupes, and you end up not knowing what you're saying. Or it feels like because they wanted to attack the actors, they forced the issue a little bit. Yeah.
There's a lot of like throwaway lines from the actors about how they're holding a gun to someone's head and they're like, peace is the only way.
Right.
Which has become like, there's a line in the Suicide Squad movie that Peacemaker says, is like, I love peace so much. I will murder every man, woman, and child I need to make it happen, which kind of is along the same lines. It's just a scattered, haphazard critique that doesn't feel well thought out.
It definitely weakens the movie. Like I said, the movie is pretty fast paced, but it does feel like towards the end, it bogs down. And I don't know if it literally bogs down in terms of the amount of scenes and time it takes to get through the end. It's probably that part's pretty normal, but somehow the presence of just Alec Baldwin on that stage bloviating makes it feel interminable to me.
That could just be a byproduct of Alec Baldwin.
That's true.
Hey-o, we can make fun of him. It's okay. But then the speech that Gary gives is another example of the movie doing a dumb thing smartly, which is this speech he gives about, first it was given to him by this old prospector in the bar. He basically says, Team America are dicks and the actors are pussies and Kim Jong-il is an asshole. But sometimes dicks have to fuck pussies.
Wait a minute.
I'm losing it a little bit. It's
pussies get mad because sometimes dicks fuck too much, but they need dicks because only dicks fuck assholes. And if it really falls apart when we try to do it, it's kind of a testament to how sophisticated this absolutely obscene metaphor actually is.
It works. Yeah. It makes a weird kind of sense in its own terms.
Yeah. He really stretches the metaphor to like pussies need dicks because they fuck assholes, and pussies could become so full of shit that they become assholes. And
because pussies and assholes are only an inch and a half away from each other.
It's, again, a testament to their cleverness that they make this really crude thing actually make sense. And you have to go, oh, yeah, I get what he's saying.
I used to be able to recite this speech pretty accurately, but time has done a number on my brain.
That's when you can feel okay about letting go.
Yeah, I don't necessarily miss that. And that's Team America. Was there anything we missed that you wanted to go over?
No, we covered it all from front to back.
Is that a pussy and asshole joke?
I was like, I'm curious what happened to the actors in this film. The actor in this film, or the couple actors, are also the director and the screenwriters.
Right.
There's not too many people to talk about.
Yeah, I was going to do like Trey Parker and Matt Stone separately in terms of like where they've gone since this, but that's a fool's errand. They basically only work together. So this was directed by Parker alone. He does most of the directing as far as I could tell, which only reinforces our theory. He directed Cannibal the Musical in 1993, which he starred in. He pulled double duty in Orgasmo again as director and star. For the listeners, Orgasmo also has Now You're a Man, which is my favorite song from Trey Parker.
You played me that one. It's pretty good.
Now you're a man. I love how unhinged he starts saying man towards the end.
Yeah.
Man. He'd star in 1998's Basketball, which bombed, but he didn't write or direct it. 1999's South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut was his only... I talked about this already. He has not directed a feature film since Team America, but here's the exciting thing. He's got one coming out in 2026.
Oh.
It's called Whitney Springs, made in collaboration with Kendrick Lamar.
Wow.
I have no idea what to expect from this movie, but I am excited to find out.
Yeah. But in the meantime, in the middle of that, they sort of conquered Broadway, right? Like,
yeah, I had that in the writing section, but
okay.
That is true. They made the Book of Mormon. Have you seen the Book of Mormon?
I have not. I've been wanting to.
Oh man, it's really funny.
Really?
I saw it on Broadway. Yeah.
Oh, neat.
It is very good. Unfortunately, it gave us Josh Gad.
Oh.
That was his kind of breakout role.
Okay.
And although Josh Gad did win me over with Wonder Man, did you get up to that episode yet?
No, not yet.
All right, you'll know it when you see it. He plays a big part in one of the episodes, and I've warmed up to him from that because he seems to be
that's good.
able to poke fun at himself at least. But yeah, he was the original star of the Book of Mormon and the original cast. And of course, he's gone on to be a very successful dude in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah.
He's directing Spaceballs too. God help us. So it was written, like we mentioned, by Parker Stone and Pam Brady. I even wrote it in my little summary of their careers here. I say Stone is the other half of the creative duo with Parker, though he frequently takes a more background approach, which we discussed already.
Seems that way.
Brady, we'll talk about. She has had a long, successful writing career in comedy. She worked on South Park, Just Shoot Me, South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, of course, Hot Rod, Hamlet 2, Number One Family USA, and the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants, which just came out.
Cool.
Still cracking along.
Nice.
And as far as the acting that Parker and Stone have done, they haven't done much. They did appear in The Aristocrats, which was a documentary about a very old joke that every comedian kind of has their own version of. I guess they had their own version of it. I never actually watched that documentary. I don't know if it's worthwhile. Did you?
I did, and I enjoyed it at the time, but I'm not sure I would go back to it.
It's not a joke that has a lot of appeal to me, but I assume the humor is in the one-upsmanship of it all.
I remember enjoying it. Somehow just the presence of all those comics made it lively and fun.
Yeah, but I wonder if you go back to it now, a lot of those names and faces probably have a different connotation.
It might be dire. I actually don't know.
They also made a documentary called Casa Bonita, Mi Amor, which is a documentary about them buying the popular Mexican restaurant out in Colorado of the same name, Casa Bonita.
Oh, I remember the South Park episode that featured it.
Apparently, they did not exaggerate much in that South Park episode. It has cliff divers and mariachi bands and performers. It's quite an experience. Although Parker and Stone, when they bought it, they did get in there was some hubbub about unpaid overtime wages, I believe, was like the issue.
Oh, no.
Like maybe not being super great to the workers. And I think the workers went on strike for a time. I think it's open and operating again, and everything seems to be relatively okay. But yeah, it wasn't all smooth for them. But it was a cool thing that this iconic restaurant of their youth was going to close down, and they just had the money, so they bought it.
That's the kind of good thing you should do with money, but then you should definitely take care of the employees.
Yeah, I don't know how much their day-to-day involvement was. It could have been like a general manager that was doing some shady stuff, but
yeah,
if you're the owner, the buck stops with you.
Sure.
Parker has also appeared in Lego Brickumentary and Despicable Me 3, so he's branched out a little bit. They created the web series Sassy Justice in 2020, and I talked about Springs already. And I did do a little section on Kristen Miller, who plays Lisa, because she's kind of the co-lead of the movie.
Yeah, she has a pretty big role.
She's a live-action actor. She's not just a voice actor. She's done lots of stuff you've heard of. You might recognize her face if you didn't know it. She's been in movies like Cherry Falls, which if you've never seen Cherry Falls, it's a great slasher movie starring Brittany Murphy, and Kristen has a smaller role in it. It was kind of a real like cult favorite in the late 90s, early 2000s in the horror community. So worth seeking out if you haven't seen it. It's quite good. I'm sure it holds up. Jay Moore's in it too. I forgot about that.
Oh, that's cool.
Michael Biehn. They got some names in there. Yeah, there's some dudes. She's been in Cherry Falls, Man of the Year. She's done most of her work on TV. She's been in That's My Bush, which was, of course, created by the South Park guys as an animated send-up of the George Bush presidency.
Okay, yeah. Vaguely remember that.
2.5 Men, Charmed, Joey, Las Vegas, Dexter, Mad Men, Castle. But she may be retired. She doesn't have any credits since 2019, so she may have hung it up.
Okay.
And that is Team America.
We got through it.
We got through it, and I think we acquitted ourselves relatively well.
We danced around the sticky issues and said what we had to say.
Danced around like two puppets in a fist fight. It's not a visual medium, podcasting.
No, we can't communicate what it looks like to be a puppet.
No matter how much Netflix wants it to be. But would you like to hear what we're doing next? I just told you right before the episode episode started. So if you forgot already, then you have to go to the doctor.
Listen, I go to the doctor regularly, and that doesn't help me. I've already forgotten what you told me at the beginning of the show.
Oh, dear. So we have a pretty big movie coming out in, I think, a week. It's Project Hail Mary from our boys, Lord and Miller and Ryan Gosling.
A lot of buzz about that. We love a Gosling vehicle.
Sci-fi, Gosling, Lord and Miller, sign me up. But I was like, hasn't Ryan Gosling gone to space before in a bomb? Not saying that Project Hail Mary is going to bomb. I hope it doesn't.
I hope not.
And I said, yeah, he has. I watched it on a plane, which is not a great place to watch a movie that features lots of people dying in aircraft, but it's Damien Chazelle's First Man.
Okay.
We're becoming the Sad Astronaut podcast after Ad Astra, now First Man. It's like the emo astronaut podcast.
I liked Ad Astra, but I don't know, I feel like almost an aversion to that specific aesthetic of, I just don't need to see mopey guys in space. Even Apollo 13, I'm like, they weren't mopey, they were pretty stoic. But
did you not like the movie Apollo 13?
No, I did. But I believe about myself that I feel like I don't want to watch that stuff. Like it's going to bring me down. But you know what? Ryan Gosling usually does not let me down. So I'm going to let him lift me up to the stars and carry me through this movie, whatever it brings.
It's a movie I like. It's got a great cast. It's got a lot of my guys. So that'll be fun to talk about. And just apropos, this one we did change the schedule around for. I had First Man on the schedule for a long time, but I moved it up to coincide with the release of Project Hail Mary. So sue me, whatever.
Look, this podcast is all above board. We don't keep any secrets or hide the way we do business.
That's right.
What you see is what you get.
We're an open book. I'm opening a book now, but you can't see it.
Oh, yeah. It's a big book.
That's us. We're a big open book.
You got a lot of reading to do.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. It helps new listeners find us, makes us more discoverable.
I love being discoverable. That's my childhood dream.
Ever since I was a baby, I wanted to be discoverable. You can email us, blastzonepod@gmail.com. If you have any questions, movie suggestions, want to talk movies, or just chat with us, we like hearing from you.
Love to hear from you.
You can also follow us at Blast Zone Pod on Twitter, Blast Zone Pod on Blue Sky. Promise I'll start posting on there more. I've just been depressed because of all of this and I'm trying to get out of the funk and start posting again. And we'll see you next time in the Blast Zone.
See you next time in the Blast Zone. That was a weird one.